I know the exact moment it shifted. When something innocent, a favor, a visit, turned into something I couldn't ignore. It was a Wednesday. I remember that because I was supposed to be helping my best friend move into his new place, but he called me last minute, said his boss made him stay late, told me his mom would be there already, and asked if I could just stop by, help her unpack a few boxes until he showed up. I'd met her before, maybe twice. Once during a birthday dinner, the other when she dropped off food for us after we'd all been out drinking. I didn't think much of it back then. She was elegant, I guess. Not just pretty, composed. The kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to command a room. I didn't expect to find her alone in that sunlit apartment, barefoot, her long sweater hanging open over a tank top that clung just enough to distract me. The windows were cracked open, summer air brushing the white curtains, and an old record played low in the background. Jazz? Maybe, or something older I couldn't name. "Hey, you must be the rescue team," she smiled, wiping her hands on a dish towel as I stepped inside. I laughed. He bailed on both of us. "I'm just the substitute." "Well," she said, tilting her head, "I didn't wear this just for anyone." She smiled when she said it, like it was a joke, like it meant nothing. But the way her eyes lingered, just for a second too long, made my breath stick in my throat. I told myself it was just my imagination. We unpacked a few kitchen boxes. She handed me dishes. I placed them in cupboards. We talked about music, about the city, about how long she'd been divorced. That last part slipped in so casually, like she was testing the weight of it. "I used to hate being alone," she said, handing me a chipped ceramic mug. Her fingers brushed mine barely, but I felt it all the way down my spine. Now, I've been around enough to know when something's just polite. And this wasn't that. It was something else. Unspoken. Heavier than words. She poured us both a glass of wine before I could offer to leave. Said we'd earned it. We sat on the floor, legs crossed like kids, backs against empty boxes. "You're quieter than your friend," she said, watching me over the rim of her glass. "Maybe I'm just listening," I answered. She nodded, then turned her gaze toward the window. Her profile in that late light, soft, thoughtful, a little sad, caught me off guard. I didn't know why I wanted to touch her hand, but I did. I couldn't, but I think she noticed anyway. "You have kind eyes," she said quietly. I froze. She didn't look at me when she said it, just ran a finger along the rim of her glass, slow and rhythmic. There was a long pause, one of those moments that stretches the air so tight you don't want to move in case it snaps. And then the front door handle turned. The sound of keys. Her hand slipped away from mine so fast, it might never have been there at all. But I knew it had been, and so did she. I didn't breathe until he walked into the room and smiled like nothing had happened. But something had, and I wasn't sure we could go back. I told myself it was nothing, just a passing look. A weird moment between two adults who happened to be alone in a quiet apartment with too much wine and too little company. That's what I told myself, anyway. But I couldn't stop thinking about the way her fingers had paused on mine. How she hadn't pulled away too quickly. Not until we heard the door. Now, a week later, I was back. My friend had asked me to drop off a box he forgot. Said his mom would be home. Of course she was. She opened the door in jeans and a loose blouse, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly damp like she just stepped out of the shower. She smiled like everything was normal, like my brain hadn't been playing reruns of that afternoon on loop. "You brought the missing box," she said, stepping aside. "Yeah, it's heavier than it looks." "Isn't that always the case?" she murmured. I don't know if she meant the box. Probably. But she looked tired in a way that made me pause. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, something else. Something that sits behind the eyes and doesn't leave. I followed her into the kitchen and placed the box on the counter. She poured herself a cup of tea and offered me one without asking if I wanted it. I took it anyway. The air between us felt unfinished. like something had been started but left halfway. We didn't talk much this time. She moved around the kitchen, and I just watched. She did this thing, pressing her palm to the small of her back every few minutes. Like something hurt, like she didn't want to ask for help. "You okay?" I asked quietly. She looked over, surprised. "Yeah, just been carrying too much lately." The way she said it, I don't think she meant the boxes. I nodded. "You want me to look at it?" My mom's a physical therapist. Taught me a few stretches. She hesitated for half a second, then turned her back to me. "Sure," she said. "Show me." I stepped behind her, slow, unsure if I was imagining everything again. I placed my hand gently on her lower back. She didn't flinch. Her body was warm through the fabric of her blouse. Her breath caught just barely. "This spot?" I asked. "MHM," she whispered. I showed her a stretch, her hand braced on the counter, my hand guiding just slightly. I shouldn't have touched her. Not like that. But she leaned into it, just a little, and I couldn't make myself pull away. After, she turned to face me. We stood close, too close. Her eyes flicked up to mine, then dropped to my lips, then back up again. "You could stay a little," she said. "If you want." I should have left, but I didn't move. And when she reached out, just touched my arm, soft, like it was nothing. I knew it wasn't. I stayed. Of course I did. She made tea again, but neither of us touched it. We sat on the couch like we were supposed to be watching the news, but the TV was off. The late afternoon sun had faded to blue-gray, shadows growing longer across the hardwood floor. I kept telling myself I should leave, that this wasn't okay, that my best friend trusted me, not just with his boxes, but with his life. But every time I glanced at her, something in me stayed seated. Her knees were curled up, one bare foot tucked under the other leg. She held the tea with both hands like it was a shield, but her eyes kept flicking toward me, then away, like she was thinking it too. "You okay?" I asked again, breaking the quiet. She nodded, then shook her head. "I had a date last night," she said suddenly. "Or, I was supposed to. He canceled. Said I made him nervous." I looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Why would you make someone nervous?" She gave a dry laugh. "Maybe because I'm not 22. Maybe because I say what I think. Or maybe because he was just looking for someone to agree with him. And I'm not that someone." The honesty hit me harder than I expected. I didn't know what to say. She set her tea down, looked at me, really looked. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I nodded. "When you look at me, do you see someone who's past it?" The question knocked the wind out of me. Her voice had cracked just slightly, like she'd let something slip by accident. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. "No," I said finally. "I see someone who scares the hell out of me." She blinked. "Why?" "Because you see too much. You talk quiet, but everything you say lands." She didn't respond. Her eyes softened, and then she leaned her head against the back of the couch, turning toward me. I don't know what would have happened next, if I would have said something else, if she would have moved closer, because that's when her phone buzzed. Loud in the silence. She flinched. So did I. She reached for it. A text. I didn't mean to glance, but I caught the name. Alex. My best friend. She locked the screen without answering. For a second, we both just sat there. Everything in the room felt still, like we were trapped in the middle of a choice neither of us wanted to name. "I should go," I said, finally standing. She didn't stop me, but she followed me to the door, slowly. When I turned to say goodbye, she reached up, just to fix the collar of my jacket. But her hand stayed there, fingertips against my neck, longer than it needed to. Neither of us spoke. We just stood there, inches apart, one breath away from something we couldn't take back. I didn't see her for 5 days. I told myself that was a good thing. That space was smart. That silence would settle whatever was building between us. But it didn't. It made it worse. I kept replaying that moment by the door. The way her fingers had lingered at the collar of my jacket. The way her eyes didn't match the smile she gave when she let me go. Felt unfinished. Like a sentence that had been interrupted mid-thought. Then Thursday night, she texted. I still have that last box of his. Can you swing by? No emojis. No punctuation. Just plain, direct. Like she didn't want to give anything away. But I knew what she meant. Or I thought I did. I didn't even hesitate. When I arrived, the apartment was dim. One lamp on, warm and low. The box was sitting on the hallway table. Clearly not heavy. She could have dropped it off herself. She didn't. She stood by the window when I walked in, arms folded, wearing a long cardigan over a tank top again. Always just enough to make me wonder if she knew what she was doing to me. You didn't have to come, she said. You asked. She didn't smile. Didn't move. You've been avoiding me, she said after a beat. I was trying to be smart. And was that working? No, the silence stretched. Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to read past my face. Past the lines I hadn't drawn clearly enough. I haven't been sleeping, she said quietly. Not since that day. That stopped me. I keep thinking I imagined it. She went on, voice steadier now. That I made something out of nothing. That I touched your hand and you just let me. You didn't imagine it. Her breath caught, just barely. And then she stepped toward me. Not far. Just close enough that I could feel her presence in the air between us. You're my son's best friend, she whispered. I know. I'm too old for this. For this to feel like this. I nodded. But I didn't step back. Neither did she. This isn't just... I paused. I don't know what this is. But it's not casual. Her eyes shimmered. Not with tears, not quite. Just with something too full to keep hidden anymore. She moved first. She reached up, almost touched my cheek, then stopped herself. Let her hand fall to her side. I don't trust myself right now, she said, voice rough. And I need you to tell me what this really is. Before I do something I can't undo. The room held still. I could hear my own pulse. She looked at me, waiting. The kind of look that could end something or start everything. And then she asked, just above a whisper, Do you feel it too? Do you feel it too? Her voice still echoed in the air when I stepped back. Not far, just enough to think straight. Her eyes didn't drop. She stood there, raw and open, like she'd finally put something heavy down in front of me. I opened my mouth, ready to say yes. Not just to her question, but to everything that had been building between us. But my phone buzzed in my pocket. Once. Then again. I glanced. Alex. 2 missed calls. And then a third buzz, a voicemail. I should listen, I muttered. She nodded, stepping away. She crossed her arms like she needed to hold something in. I turned away to the kitchen and hit play. His voice was quiet, tired. Hey man. Weird timing, I know. I've been thinking a lot about my mom lately. I know she doesn't talk about it, but she was in a bad place after the divorce. Blamed herself for a lot of things that weren't her fault. I always thought if she could find someone who really saw her, not just for how she looks, but really saw her, maybe she'd come back to life again. Crazy thought. Huh. I froze. My grip tightened on the phone. Anyway, he continued, I know you've been helping her a lot lately. I appreciate it. Seriously, I trust you with her. More than anyone. The message ended. I stood there, phone still in hand, heart jackhammering. When I turned around, she was watching me. She must have seen something in my face, because her whole expression shifted. What happened? She asked. I swallowed. Alex called. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. He knows. No, he doesn't. But he said something. About you. About how he wished someone would really see you. Her breath caught. He said he trusted me with you, I added. Said he thought I was the kind of guy who wouldn't take advantage of someone vulnerable. She looked away fast. The words vulnerable and take advantage landed hard, like accusations neither of us meant. I'm not fragile, she said, stiff. Don't let my age confuse you. I know you're not, I said quickly. That's not what You think I don't know what this looks like? She snapped, voice tight. Do you think I make a habit of flirting with boys who sleep on my son's couch? Stop, I said, stepping closer. You're not some fantasy to me. You're not just his mom. But she held up her hand. Don't. If you say something real, I won't be able to unhear it. I didn't know what to do. I know this isn't fair, I said, my voice shaking a little. To you, to Alex, hell, maybe even to me. But I can't lie, not to you. Not now. That made her turn. Slowly. Her eyes were tired, glassy, like the weight of pretending had finally caught up to her. I didn't want this, she said. I wasn't looking for anything. And yet, I see you, I cut in. Not because I'm supposed to, not because I'm being careful, but because I can't not see you. When you're quiet, when you're angry, when you're trying not to show how alone you've been. That last part stung. I saw it on her face. Her mouth opened, then closed again. I'm not trying to fix you, I added. I care. More than I've ever said out loud. There it was. I had finally said it, and it landed between us like a stone dropped into still water. Quiet, but changing everything. She looked at me, really looked, and her eyes softened. I don't want to be someone's mistake, she whispered. You're not. I've spent years cleaning up other people's messes. My ex, my son's, my own. I've never had anyone look at me and say they chose me. I stepped forward, slow. Not to kiss her. Not to push anything. Just to close the space that had kept us circling each other for too long. I'm not saying this won't be messy, I said. But I'm here. Not because it's convenient, but because it's you. Her hand brushed mine. Tentative. Testing. And this time I didn't let it go. We stood like that. Fingers barely touching, hearts pounding, the rest of the world quietly falling away. Nothing was solved. Nothing was perfect. But the air between us finally stopped humming with what-ifs and started filling with something heavier. Something real. I can't promise this won't hurt, she said softly. I'm not asking you to, I replied. I'm just asking you to let it be honest. She nodded, a single tear sliding down her cheek. And then, for the first time, she didn't pull away. It's been 3 months since that night. The night we stopped circling around it and finally let it become what it already was. Nothing exploded. The world didn't end. But things changed. Alex still doesn't know. Not everything, at least. We've agreed to keep it quiet. Not because we're ashamed, but because we owe him time. The truth will come. Carefully when it's right. But for now, it's ours. She still has the same apartment. I still stop by. Sometimes it's to help fix a drawer or carry groceries. And sometimes it's just to sit beside her and drink tea in silence. There's something about quiet with her. It doesn't feel empty. It feels earned. She's softer now. Not weaker, just less guarded. She smiles more. Sometimes at nothing. Sometimes at me. She laughs with her whole body. Not just the polite half-laugh I used to get. And me? I've stopped pretending I don't need anything. I used to wear emotional distance like armor. Like I had to be chill and casual, like wanting something too much made me weak. But loving her, it cracked that wide open. There are still hard moments. Like when she second-guesses it. Or when I wonder what Alex will say when he finds out. But we've built something stronger than fear. Not perfect. Just real. Last week, she turned to me while we were cooking, wiped flour from her cheek, and said, "You feel like peace I didn't know I could have again." That one sentence did something to me. Undid something, maybe. I told her the truth then, that I used to think she was a fantasy. The beautiful woman with the quiet eyes and the voice that cut through noise. But now I know better. She's not a dream. She's a real person, with past hurts, morning moods, and nights when she needs to be held but won't ask for it. And I want all of her, even the parts that don't come easy. That's the thing no one tells you about love when it's inconvenient, or complicated, or unexpected. It doesn't arrive on time. It doesn't always look like it's supposed to. And it sure as hell doesn't ask for permission. But when it's real, when it's honest, you don't run from it. You show up for it. Every day. And if you're lucky, it shows up for you too.